give me your doubts. Any doubts, just give them to me. Gladly accept them.
Does it have to be now, or can we send them tomorrow, too?
FedEx them.
All bones from the graveyard.
Right, yeah. What the heck? Doc's got a big backyard.
Bob calls it Pet Cemetery anyway from the Stephen King book.
C.Y. Ramana held some retreats, and one of the things we would do is we'd write our doubts down or write things down, and then we'd burn them in a fire. You know, it was kind of fun. It's very symbolic. But you actually can just, they appear in language.
In Sanskrit, I think the word for thing, bhuta, comes from the root word bhu, to be.
Right.
Being. But it's also, same word is used for ghosts. So,
Ghost.
you know, it's like things that, you know, we give all our memory forms to.
Right.
Are really ghosts. They're
Right.
demons, you know, that we, whenever we go there, we all these demons,
Right.
you know, come up, ooh, boo, yeah.
Right. Right. They're the denizens of the graveyard. Right.
Yeah, we're surrounded
Right.
by that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've been pretty impervious to demons. You know, I notice sometimes demonic behavior in sometimes in children. You know, you'll kind of see it a little bit. And of course, my very old and wonderful mother had me baptized 3 times. You know, and I think she was hoping for an exorcism. Because I was a pretty ornery kid. I had a lot of energy, you know. So, no, obviously.
I'm so glad.
Right. Yeah, she had me sprinkled twice, and then she says, "Let's dunk this kid." So they had me dunked once. Yeah, right. 20 minutes should do it. Right. Yeah. So that's funny. Yeah.
But she forgot it all at the end.
Right, she did. She forgot a lot of stuff. The interesting thing about the dementia, you know, she forgot mostly the current stuff, but she would tell us one story over and over and over about how when she was a little girl back in the 1920s probably, or even before, you know, the school teacher, you know, she lived out in the country in rural Kansas, and the school teacher came to stay at her house in one of the spare bedrooms. And she felt so proud of that, you know, as a little girl, that the school teacher would live in her house, that she still was telling that story when she was, before she died at the age of 88. You know, that was one of the stories that stuck, you know. So it was kind of interesting what impresses us in these lives, you know, and what we consider to be important, and what actually stays with us as the brain deteriorates, what's some of the last stuff to go. So, very interesting process. And there again, kind of heart-wrenching, you know, too. Yeah. So, this is great. Yeah, we could camp out. I don't know.
She goes, oh.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Well, we're not asking what's next. We're staying in the moment.
I know. That's just what's so beautiful. That's what's so beautiful.
I'm going to tell you this story. Like my grandfather, when he was 92, he had like a throat cancer. They said, oh, they wanted to give him chemotherapy and do this surgery, and he just laughed and said, what's the point?
What's the point?
And he lived for 3 more years, and then just one day he liked to go out on the front porch and sit in his rocking chair and look at the vista out in front of it, and he would rock in his rocking chair, and then one day they went out, and he just wasn't rocking anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But he didn't go through
Right.
any, hospital or surgery or chemo or anything. He just
Yeah.
said, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that was a good leaving.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's really a lot of faith there. A lot of shraddha. Trust in the process. That's here. Yeah, it's impressive. Yeah. Yeah, I actually ran into some very interesting people in the assisted living place where my mother spent a lot of time. And I found even the people with Alzheimer's, they'd been diagnosed that way. If you could keep your interaction completely present moment, look at this rug, this is beautiful, this is lovely fabric, or, there were no difference, the being, they were every bit as present as I was, there's no loss of presence. It's just that they didn't have access to certain information. And of course, if you started talking about anything that had to do with time, like either in the past or projecting a future out of the past, then the confusion would show up. But it was not a lack of presence, it was just confusion. Based on, not being able to access what they'd normally been able, took for granted for most of their lives. So who they were, who they are, was not affected at all. That's a good story. I like that. Okay.